By the time Stacey finally woke up, it was early evening. For one confusing second, she forgot where she was. The room felt unfamiliar, too quiet. No hospital machines, distant announcements, nurses walking in and out. Then memory came back. Home. She was home. Slowly, Stacey sat up. Her body still felt heavy, like sleep had only reached the surface of her exhaustion. She rubbed her eyes and stared at the fading sunlight outside. She had slept through most of the day. Part of her felt guilty. Another part didn't care. Her body had apparently made the decision for her. Downstairs, Agatha looked up immediately when Stacey entered the kitchen. Something softened in her expression. She had spent half the afternoon thinking about what Jair revealed at lunch. 19 years. 19 years Stacey had carried that burden. Alone. A child carrying something far too large to understand. And somehow never saying a word. Agatha had wanted to go upstairs, wanted to hold her daughter, wanted to ask questions, wanted to cry for her. But she knew better. Stacey came when Stacey was ready, always had. So instead, she simply smiled softly. "You hungry?" Simple question. But what Agatha really meant was, can I love you without overwhelming you? Can I carry some of this for you? Stacey leaned tiredly against the counter. "A bit." Agatha moved immediately. "I can warm something." But Stacey shook her head. "I'm actually going to Debbie's." Agatha blinked. "Debbie?" Stacey nodded. "I think I need to talk." Something quietly relaxed inside Agatha. Good. Debbie was steady and grounded, safe. "Okay," she said gently. "Tell her I said hello." Stacey smiled faintly, then disappeared upstairs briefly. Debbie's law office sat quietly in town. Professional, neat, organized. Exactly like Debbie. Stacey stood outside for a moment before going in. The receptionist barely looked up, then froze. Oh, recognition, of course. Celebrity life never really left her alone. "Debbie's expecting—" "No," Stacey said softly. "She isn't." A few moments later, the office door opened. Debbie stepped out and completely froze. "Stacey?" Her surprise lasted all of 1 second. Then she crossed the room quickly and wrapped Stacey into a tight hug. The kind that said, "I'm here. No questions first. No pressure." "When did you get back?" "Last night." Debbie leaned back. "You look exhausted." "I am exhausted." Debbie nodded immediately. "Sit." She gestured toward the sofa inside her office. "Give me 10 minutes." She lifted a file. "I just need to finish this assignment." "Then you're all mine." Stacey laughed softly. For the first time all day, it felt easy. Debbie's office felt put together. Law books and certificates, carefully stacked paperwork. Debbie moved confidently through her work, focused. And Stacey found herself watching quietly, thinking. Debbie had her life together, completely. Lawyer during the week, youth minister on weekends. Meanwhile, Stacey only really felt confident on stage, only when the lights were bright. When thousands of people screamed her name, when crowds leaned toward her every word. When she could move a stadium emotionally with one lyric. That confidence? It only existed there. Outside of it, she felt like she was winging life. Barely. Eventually, Debbie stood. "Done." She grabbed her bag. "Come on. Food first."
The small eatery sat quietly near the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Warm lighting, simple comfort food. a place where nobody asked too many questions. By the time they made their orders, Debbie had already decided she wasn't letting Stacey dodge this conversation. Not today. The waitress walked away, and Debbie folded her arms across the table, then leaned slightly forward. "Okay," she pointed lightly. "Spill it." Stacey blinked, then laughed softly. "Spill what?" Debbie narrowed her eyes immediately. "Stacey." She tilted her head. "Don't play coy with me." Stacey looked down at the table, still trying to dodge. Debbie wasn't having it. "You could have caught up with me at Daniel's office," she gestured lightly, "but instead, you came all the way to my workplace." Her voice softened. "That means something." Silence settled briefly between them. Stacey inhaled slowly. A short breath, like somebody trying to decide where to even begin. Then finally, she looked down at her hands, quietly. "I keep thinking about..." Her voice faltered slightly. "The chain of events." Debbie stayed quiet, listening. "The series of things that brought Andre to this point." Her fingers curled slightly together, tighter. "A part of me," she swallowed, "feels responsible." Her voice dropped lower. "And at the same time," she looked up, frustrated, "I know it wasn't my fault." The conflict sat plainly on her face, like she had been arguing with herself for weeks. Debbie's expression softened immediately. She leaned back slightly, giving Stacey space, not interrupting, because she knew whatever came next had probably been trapped inside Stacey for far too long. Stacey stared down at the table for a long moment. Her fingers traced the edge of her cup absent-mindedly. Then she sighed, like she had been carrying something far too large for far too long. "When I came home the last time," she paused, "I went to Jaya's house." Debbie blinked. "You what?" Stacey laughed softly. "Told you not to ask me why." She shook her head. "I honestly don't know. I was taking one of my usual walks and somehow..." She shrugged lightly. "I just found myself standing outside his building." Debbie leaned back quietly, listening, interested. Stacey stared out the restaurant window for a moment, then said quietly, "You know my famous dream?" Debbie nodded. "The one when you were 5? Stacey exhaled slowly. "When I had that dream," she paused, "I saw Jair in it." Debbie's face shifted immediately. Surprise. That alone told Stacey Debbie. Really hadn't known. "I understood," Stacey continued quietly. "Even at that age. That..." Her voice softened. "We were together." Silence. Debbie stared, and Stacey gave a small, humorless laugh. "I hated it." Debbie blinked. "Hated it?" "Oh, yes," Stacey nodded quickly. "I was completely in denial, so I didn't tell anybody. Not Mum, Dad, Daniel, not even you." She paused. "And honestly, looking back, I think I developed a kind of animosity toward Jaya." Debbie frowned slightly. "Animosity?" Stacey nodded. "I think..." She hesitated. "I think it was protection." She looked down. "Like if I kept him at arm's length. Then maybe," she laughed softly at herself, "I wouldn't accidentally develop feelings." Debbie stayed quiet, letting her talk. "Anyway," Stacey continued, "when I got to his apartment, he somehow figured out that I knew." Debbie frowned. "Knew what?" Stacey gave her a look. "God's plan for us." "Oh," Debbie leaned back slowly. "And?" "He practically pried it out of me." Stacey shook her head. "Then he told me," her expression shifted, "that God showed him too." This time, Debbie wasn't surprised. She simply nodded, like something quietly made sense. Stacey noticed. "You knew?" Debbie nodded lightly. "Yes, Jair told us." She smiled faintly. "Anyway, I think..." Her fingers wrapped tighter around the mug, because suddenly it was only the two of us carrying the same secret. The hostility kind of... She searched for the words. "Took a back seat." She sighed. At that point, Andre was still in rehab. He was supposed to be released later, and I was already planning to go back. So I'd be there when he got out. But, she laughed once, humorless, he got released early. and decided to surprise me instead. Debbie listened carefully. That day, Stacey continued quietly, I was taking my usual walk, and I ran into Jair, completely by chance. She paused, started walking together. For the first time. No fighting. We weren't even talking much. She smiled faintly, just walking. Quiet company. Her expression changed, then darker. And then we turned onto our street. She swallowed. And I saw Andre. At first, she smiled sadly. I was relieved. I missed him. At least, the version of him before everything got bad. Her fingers tightened. But then, I saw the jealousy. Debbie frowned. Stacey looked down. It just passed over his face. At first, he looked happy. Then suddenly, he looked furious. She paused. He then said, "So, this is what's been going on behind my back." Debbie frowned. Stacey continued, "This is why you've been coming home so much lately." She laughed softly, bitterly. Jair and I were both shocked. Honestly, we didn't even know what he was talking about. Jair tried calming him down, told him he was misunderstanding what he was seeing. But Andre, she shook her head. He wouldn't listen. Her voice cracked slightly. He just kept jabbing at Jair. "She's mine." Over and over and over again. "She's mine. You're not taking her from me." "Debbie," she exhaled shakily. "You should have seen the chaos. People staring. Crowds slowing down. Everyone watching." We both tried calming him down. But he wouldn't hear reason. Her voice softened, stomped off. Silence settled. Debbie stayed quiet, letting Stacey unravel slowly. When I called the penthouse later, I found out he'd gone straight back, her voice cracked, to the room, locked himself inside. So I went back. Debbie nodded slowly, then interrupted quietly. "Can I ask you something?" Stacey looked up. "Yeah." Debbie tilted her head slightly. "What do you feel about Jair now?" The question caught Stacey completely off guard. She blinked. "Nothing." Debbie raised one eyebrow. Stacey sighed. The hostility isn't there anymore. That's all." Debbie watched her carefully. "And what do you feel about God's plan?" That made Stacey tense immediately. "I still think..." Her voice sharpened slightly. "My life should be mine. I should choose who I marry." Debbie nodded quietly. "Fair enough." Then softly, "What about Andre?" That made Stacey still. Long pause. Finally, "What I felt for him," she swallowed hard, "had burnt out." Debbie stayed quiet, encouraging. "There's affection." She looked down. "I've spent 6 years with him. The band..." Her voice cracked slightly. "The band was family. All of them. Johnny, Roxy, Jared, Andre, and Reggie. They were home. But romantic?" She shook her head slowly. "That died before I even came home the last time." She sighed. "And the day Andre saw Jair and me, I knew. He'd gone straight back to drugs. He had literally just come out of rehab for the exact same thing. I apologized to Jair. I could tell he hadn't told anyone. Then I left the next day." She paused. "And yes, I was right. He told the whole band that I was trying to get rid of him, to go back to my teenage romance." Debbie frowned. "Oh, Stacey." I kept trying to explain. There was nothing between Jair and me. "But Andre..." She shook her head. He wasn't hearing it. "Not at all." Her fingers tightened again. "And honestly, I take responsibility too." Debbie frowned immediately. "For what?" "The drugs." Stacey looked down. "If I hadn't occasionally used with him, maybe it wouldn't have gotten this bad." Debbie immediately shook her head. "No, I don't agree with that." Stacey looked up. "Everybody is responsible for their own body and their own decisions. You didn't make him use." Silence. Then Stacey continued quietly. "He kept trying to make me confess there was something between Jair and me. He kept saying, 'I can see the way he looks at you. That look isn't friendly.'" She sighed. "And honestly, I didn't know what Jair felt. So I told him, I don't know what Jair might be thinking, but on my end, there's nothing, she swallowed. And I couldn't exactly say there was nothing between Andre and me either. We hadn't broken up. Then her expression shifted. Now, this is where I think I made a mistake. Debbie leaned in slightly. I told him that Jair might have feelings because, she paused, he had heard from God that I was going to be his wife. Debbie closed her eyes briefly. Oh no. Exactly. Stacey sighed. Everything spiraled after that. He made me tell him everything. My dream, Jair's revelation, all of it. A bitter laugh escaped her. For somebody who spent years saying he didn't believe in God or his mum's religion, he sure believed quickly when it came to Jair and me. He became convinced that if God said we belonged together, then we did. No matter what I said, I kept telling him I had no intention of dating Jair, but he just got worse. Her voice softened. Nobody could reach him. Not Reggie, the band, Sharon, not me. He drowned himself more and more. In alcohol. In coke. She looked exhausted now, emotionally spent. I couldn't even break up with him. We were meant to be rehearsing for the next leg of tour, but he made everything impossible. We cancelled interviews. Sometimes we lied and said he was ill, because he was too high. I called Sharon. He refused to speak to her. She arranged rehab again with Reggie. He refused. Her eyes filled. It became unbearable. The band kept lamenting, until finally, they just couldn't anymore. Gianni and Jared left. Roxy apologized, but she'd been with them longer, long before Heart's Echo. I don't blame them. They really tried. Her voice cracked. That broke me. That band, her voice dropped, was family. At that point, I was ready to abandon everything and just come home. But I kept thinking, if anybody could still reach Andre, it had to be me. Because I was closest to him. She looked exhausted now, emotionally wrung out. After everybody left, he slowed down a bit. Less alcohol, less coke. He suddenly got hopeful. He said, we don't need them. It's always been us. We can start again. New name, new band. The magic was always the two of us. She shook her head slowly. I kept telling him, Heart's Echo is over. But he wouldn't hear it. For weeks, he kept trying to convince me. Until finally, I told him I was leaving. Her voice broke. I wasn't interested anymore. Not in the band. Not in us. At first, he stayed in denial. Until the day I finally said I was going. Silence. Then quietly, he overdosed. Stacey leaned back, emotionally empty, drained, like finally saying everything out loud had taken the last of her strength. By the time Debbie drove her home, Stacey felt emotionally emptied out, drained, like somebody had finally pulled words out she'd been choking on for months. She bade everyone good night and went straight to bed. Inside the house, the family listened quietly as Debbie filled them in. Everything. And when she finished, silence settled, heavy. Jair felt something painful twist in his chest, for Stacey, for how alone she must have felt, and how hard she had fought, how deeply she loved. Knowing all of it only made him care more. He feels for her because the only person that could help her now, she is not talking to. Later that night, Jair sat alone quietly, Bible open, but untouched. Instead, he prayed, Lord, I know she won't come to you right now, he paused, but she is your daughter. His voice lowered. You know how to reach her better than any of us. Another pause. She's lost right now. Emotion caught briefly in his throat. Please, for her sake, reach her. And somewhere upstairs, unaware, Stacey slept. The days moved slowly. Every morning, Stacey woke up hoping for news. And every day, nothing changed. Andre still hadn't woken up. She spoke to Sharon every single day, sometimes late at night. always hoping for something different, some sign, anything. But every conversation ended the same. No change. Eventually, Sharon had to come home for a week, things she couldn't put off forever, before taking a longer leave from the hospital. Stacey had immediately offered to go back. Guilt still sat too heavily inside her to stay away, but Sharon refused, firmly. "Reggie is there." Her tone left little room for argument. "You need rest. You do not need to be there." Stacey hadn't liked hearing it, but deep down, she knew Sharon was right. She was exhausted, not just physically, emotionally, and mentally too. She felt like she had been carrying something crushing for weeks and didn't know how to put it down. Sunday morning came quietly, and when Stacey woke, the house was empty. She frowned slightly. Church. Of course, everyone would be at church for a second. She thought about breakfast. Then something strange happened. A thought dropped suddenly into her mind. So suddenly. It felt almost intrusive. Church. She sat there for a moment, then immediately argued with herself. Absolutely not. No chance. But the thought refused to leave. Before she could overthink it, she found herself upstairs getting dressed. Not properly dressed, hidden dressed. A disguise, oversized dark hoodie, dark sunglasses, hair tucked carelessly away. Something low-key enough not to attract attention. The last thing she wanted was people recognizing her, or worse, talking to her. She had one mission: slip in, sit quietly, leave immediately after service, no conversations. She got there just in time for the sermon and deliberately sat at the very back, near the exit, escape route ready, just in case. At first, she wasn't really listening. Her thoughts still too noisy, too crowded. But then, something the pastor said caught her attention and immediately annoyed her. The pastor paced slowly across the stage, speaking passionately, talking about the calling of God, about purpose, about obedience. Then he said, "It is pride," his voice carried across the sanctuary. Arrogance, even. To know the call of God on your life and still deliberately run from it. Stacey frowned immediately. "Excuse me," the pastor continued, talking about submission, trusting God, not leaning on human understanding. And Stacey could feel irritation rising steadily. Then she looked around. People were nodding, actually nodding. Like this made perfect sense. She recognized some familiar faces too. Friends from back when she still attended church. Some now married, sitting beside husbands, children beside them, happy, settled. And for some reason, that irritated her more. Her jaw tightened. So basically, you have no choice. That's what we're saying? Her thoughts grew sharper, angrier. All my life, church people keep saying God gives people free will, that everyone has a choice, that nobody is forced, and now, suddenly, not following what he says is pride. How exactly is that a choice? Her frustration kept building. Minute by minute, the pastor kept speaking, but Stacey had mentally checked out. At some point, she stood up quietly, before the sermon even ended, and left, angry, frustrated. Back home, she couldn't settle. She paced, sat down, stood up again, tried television, didn't work, tried music. Worse, her thoughts wouldn't stop spinning. Finally, she scribbled a note for Agatha, gone for a walk, then left. Only, this wasn't her usual walk. Not really, because somehow, without consciously deciding, she ended up outside Jaya's apartment. Again, she blinked, seriously. At this point, she was almost annoyed with herself. He probably wasn't even home. Church would still be going on. And even if it had finished, he might go to Daniel's for lunch. She wasn't even sure why she was there. Still, she sat down on the pavement outside his building, waiting, frustrated, confused, and angry. Meanwhile, Jaya had originally planned to go to Daniel's for lunch after church, but halfway through service, he'd felt something strange. A quiet nudge. Go home. strong enough that he couldn't ignore it, which was odd. But after years of learning God's leading, he had stopped arguing. So after church, he simply drove home, and the moment he turned onto his street, he saw her, Stacey, sitting outside his building, looking deeply unhappy. Suddenly, the prompting made sense, of course. He parked quietly, walked over. Stacey barely looked up. He studied her for a second. The hoodie, the sunglasses, the frustration practically radiating off her. He unlocked the door. "You want to come inside?" She stood immediately and followed him in. The moment they sat down, Jaya felt the anger, strong anger. At first, he genuinely thought it was directed at him, until Stacey started talking and then talking and ranting about church, the sermon, the pastor, about the sheer audacity, the nerve, she threw her hands up, to say it's arrogant not to follow the call of God. If God himself said we have a choice in life, her frustration only grew. What kind of God gives people choice? Then takes it away? At that moment, Jaya understood immediately. She had gone to church this morning. Interesting. He stayed quiet, let her rant, let her empty it out. Because underneath the anger, he could hear confusion, fear and frustration, and maybe hurt. Finally, when she paused, Jaya silently prayed. Quick, simple. "Holy Spirit, help me here. I asked you to reach her. Now you've kicked the ball to me. Please help me here." Then calmly, he spoke. "God hasn't taken your choice away." Stacey turned toward him immediately, sharp, defensive. "Oh, really?" Her tone rose again. "Then how exactly is it a choice if I'm expected to take the route he already picked?" She was about to launch into another rant, when Jaya interrupted gently. "Are you here to hear what I actually think?" He paused. "Or are you just here to rant and leave angry?" That stopped her. Immediately. Silence. She looked at him, then crossed her arms, and waited. Jaya nodded once. "Okay. Let me finish first. Then you can tell me I'm wrong." That almost made her roll her eyes, but she stayed quiet. So Jaya continued. They sat facing each other. And, carefully, he started. "It's true. God chooses a path. And yes, he hopes his children are wise enough to follow it. But," he paused, "you still have a choice." Stacey frowned. He continued. "Let me compare it to natural parents." Immediately, she looked skeptical, but listened. "If your parents saw you in school and noticed your friends pulling you in two completely different directions, one responsible, one trouble, what would they do?" Stacey stayed quiet. "They'd advise you. They'd say, choose better friends, choose wisely. These ones are safer. Those ones will probably get you into trouble." Why? He answered his own question. Because they can see something you can't. They can see consequences, patterns. A wiser child listens. He paused. But even then, the child still has a choice. They can ignore their parents completely. Stacey stayed quiet now, actually listening. Jaya leaned forward slightly. Now, here's the difference. Natural parents don't actually know the future. They guess. Unless God shows them something, they don't know for certain. But God, he shook his head slowly, God knows the end from the beginning. He's not guessing. He sees every possible choice, every possible outcome. He knows which roads end badly, which roads are good, and which road is best. His voice softened. So when he leads, it's not control, it's protection. Silence. He knows where heartbreak waits. He knows where unnecessary pain waits. He knows where destruction waits. And because he loves his children, he tries to spare them. He looked at her carefully. That doesn't mean he forces anyone. You can still choose differently, just like a child ignoring good advice. You might still have a good life, maybe even a happy one. He paused. But maybe not the best one God had. That landed. He saw it, then softly. Where you are right now, he said carefully, was never a surprise to God. Stacey looked up slowly. He knew, if you chose this road, that this was where it could end. He saw it. He didn't stop you. He warned you. He tried guiding you. But he let you choose silence, long silence. That's what the pastor meant. Not that God is forcing you, but that knowingly rejecting wisdom because we think we know better. That's the pride part. Quiet. The anger had gone, almost completely. Stacey sat there, thinking. And for the first time, she wasn't arguing. Jair quietly thanked God inside. Thank you. Please let something land. Finally, he stood up, stretched slightly, then said casually, Well, a small smile touched his face. Since you've deprived both of us of a decent lunch, he turned toward the kitchen. Let me make us something to eat. And while Stacey sat quietly, still thinking, Jair quietly pulled out his phone and texted Daniel, Stacey is with me. Simple, enough to stop the inevitable panic once they realized she wasn't home. He slipped the phone back into his pocket, then quietly, under his breath, he thanked God. Thank you. Please let something reach her. Behind him, Stacey remained seated, arms loosely folded, far calmer now, still processing. And Stacey sat there no longer angry, didn't feel quite so Stacey, thinking, really thinking. For once, her mind wasn't racing in 10 different directions, the anger that had consumed her all morning, gone. Now clarity finally settling in. She replayed Jair's words again, and again, and again. God knows the end from the beginning. She had heard that saying all her life. Growing up in church, it was practically second nature. Pastors, people quoted it often enough. She had never really connected it to her own choices. Not like this, because she had always known she had a choice. Hadn't the Bible said so? I place before you life and death, therefore choose life. God himself had said choose. Meaning, there had to be options, choice, freedom. And maybe that was why she had rebelled. The gospel singing part, that had never bothered her. She had actually loved that vision. The thought of singing for God, ministering, using music for something bigger than herself. That part felt beautiful, fulfilling and right. But Jair? That part she had fought. She doesn't have anything against him, personally. She never really had, even during all the animosity, the fighting, the sarcasm. She didn't hate Jair. She just hated that it felt chosen for her. Why couldn't it be like Daniel, she thought quietly. Daniel had seen Debbie, liked and wanted Debbie. God confirmed it. Though if anyone asked Daniel, he'd laugh and say, I had an inner witness. A quiet knowing. Stacey sighed softly. She still didn't know what she felt about Jair. Not really. Didn't know what to call whatever had changed between them. Didn't know what to do with it. But one thing she was slowly coming to terms with. She might have done God a disservice. And she knows. She needed to find her way back. Because she had seen life now, really seen it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And to be honest, the ugly outweighed the good. By far, she didn't even have the desire to go back anymore. To the chaos, the emptiness, to constantly holding broken things together. Suddenly, she felt tired. Physically and emotionally, her body gave up before her thoughts did. Without really thinking, she stretched out on the sofa, pulled herself slightly to one side, and drifted to sleep. Some time later, Jair walked back into the living room carrying food, then stopped. Stacey was asleep. Again. He stood there quietly for a moment, watching her. It was rare to see Stacey completely unguarded. When they were younger, she had been transparent, open, easy to read, the kind of child whose face gave away every feeling. But as she got older, she had changed, put up walls, defensive. She had closed herself off, especially from him. And yet, here she was, sleeping peacefully on his sofa, completely vulnerable. He smiled softly despite himself, then shook his head slightly. Careful. Dangerous territory. He walked closer, then gently tapped her arm. Stacey. She stirred slowly, eyes opening sleepily, clearly disoriented for a second, then remembered where she was. Jair smiled lightly. Lunch is ready. She sat up slowly, honestly surprised by how hungry she suddenly felt. She hadn't really been eating much lately. Grief had stolen most of her appetite. But now, she felt ravenous, like her body suddenly remembered food existed. They ate quietly at first, comfortable silence, and somewhere during lunch, Stacey looked up, quietly. Thanks, Jair looked over. For explaining the sermon, she paused. I hear you. That made him still slightly. Then she continued, softly. I think, she hesitated. I think I'm ready to seek God out again. Her fingers played lightly with the edge of her plate, like a proper one-to-one. Something softened deeply inside Jair, but he didn't push or overreact, didn't make it bigger than she was ready for. Instead, he simply nodded, quietly. After lunch, without even thinking about it, Stacey helped him with the dishes. It felt strangely normal, comfortable, unexpectedly peaceful. When they finished, she hesitated, then turned toward him. Can I ask you something? Of course. She looked down, then quietly. Can you pray for Andre? That caught him off guard slightly. Stacey sighed softly. I've been praying. Her voice cracked just a little. But I'm not sure God is hearing me. Jaya's chest tightened immediately. She continued quietly. I even promised, she swallowed, that if he heals Andre, I'll come back to him. Something inside Jaya ached. Because no, that wasn't how this worked. Not really. And she still didn't fully understand that. Gently, he led her back into the living room, sat opposite her, then spoke softly. God hears your prayers, he said it firmly. The prayers of everybody. Yours, Sharon's, your family's, the band, everybody. And he's answering. He paused. Maybe not how we expect, or when we expect, but he's answering. Stacey stayed quiet, listening. Then Jair added gently, and God doesn't want you back on that basis. She frowned slightly. What do you mean? He doesn't want you back because of a bargain. His voice softened. He wants you back because you want to come back, because you realize he loved you all along and only ever wanted the best for you. Silence settled. Then, quietly, they sat opposite each other, and Jair began to pray, his voice calm. It touched Stacey deeply, because he wasn't praying like someone threatened by Andre, wasn't praying like someone secretly hoping Andre stayed out of the picture. No, this was selfless, and it moved her. Jair bowed his head slightly. Father, Andre is not in the position to come home yet. He needs another chance. He needs time to put his life in order. He needs the opportunity to repent, so his homecoming can be celebrated. Stacey blinked slowly, emotion pressing unexpectedly at her chest. Then Jair continued softly. Father, he also needs to experience your mighty hand firsthand, so he knows that only you are God. And what about his friends? The band? They need to experience your mercy too. They need to see your love in action. His voice grew quieter. Maybe this is the sign and wonder that will minister to the others. Then finally, Father, I know many people are already praying for Andre, but this is Stacey and I, in agreement, as you said in your word. We're asking you for this. Amen. When he finished, Stacey's eyes were moist. She felt something pull in her heart, something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Quietly. She looked at Jair and suddenly understood something. He genuinely cared, deeply and selflessly. Even when Andre could potentially take away the very future Jair believed God promised him. She is touched, deeply. Finally, she stood slowly. "You should take me home." Back at the house, everyone gathered quickly, curious and concerned. Then, Stacey told them everything. The sermon at church, the anger, going to Jair's house, their conversation, everything. To Agatha's absolute excitement. Her mother cried, laughed, hugged Stacey, then cried again, completely overwhelmed. "You're coming back to God," she whispered emotionally. Stacey laughed softly, slowly, then more seriously. "I need help." She looked around at everyone. "No pressure. Please. But..." Her voice softened. "I want to find my way back." The room grew emotional instantly, then she added quickly, "And before anybody gets ideas." She pointed vaguely between herself and Jair. "I still don't know what I feel about that. So, don't get your hopes up." That made everyone laugh slightly. Then Stacey looked toward Jair, quietly. "Sorry," Jair smiled gently. "Don't worry." His voice stayed calm. "I'm just happy you're finding your way back to God." That alone nearly made her emotional again. Then Ben stood, calm as always, and prayed. He thanked God for bringing Stacey back, softening her heart, for helping her begin her journey home again. Then, he prayed for Andre too, for healing, for speedy recovery, for restoration. And Stacey realized that no one here held bitterness nor resentment towards Andre. Not after the pain and the chaos. They still wanted him healed, still wanted him restored. And finally, Stacey felt at home.
Stay tuned for episode 5. Please subscribe and share,